Hi, welcome to the Pulse. I hope you're doing well. In today's episode, we are going to talk about hobbies and how to find a new one in time where basically you're full-time working, having a 9 to 5, potentially a personal life next to it, like families. And I know it's a time where it's not as easy as when we are younger to find a hobby. And so the objective here is to talk about it and look into how can we define and how can we find the right hobby in order to give ourselves that time to feel good. I hope the episode will be okay. It's, to be fairly transparent, we're going through a heat wave here in Germany where I am today. So let's see how this goes and how I'm managing all throughout the recording. Let's talk about the first things that you have to do when looking for a hobby. And of course, the first thing is you have to define what type of hobby you're looking for. Are you looking for another sport or starting sports if you have never? Are you looking for an activity that is going to be more creative? So I don't know, painting or other topics. Are you more someone who liked something indoor, something outdoor? You have to kind of go through a bit of a general understanding of yourself in terms of what this new hobby is supposed to bring to you. So for example, for me, I was looking to replace tennis with another sport, not because I didn't want to play tennis anymore, but because I could not find the right tennis club. So I was looking for another sports activity that felt right. And this is how I picked running. So I was not picking running automatically. I was just looking at what other sports, so more from a generality standpoint. I also wanted to have some creative outlets. So this is where then further down in the last couple of years, I've done further activities for it, like some creative. So this podcast in a way is still a hobby for now, but it's also a way for me to have this creative outlet. So you really need to pinpoint for you what type of activities you're looking at, because without that full visibility, you most likely would start an activity that is not really doesn't feel good for your heart. And we are at a time where we live very busy life. Most likely you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or maybe 50s, and finding a new hobby. Your life is already busy. You already have a lot of things going on. So it's important to find a way for you to have the space, but also that it's going to be something that feels good for you. It shouldn't be a new chore on top. So this is why my number one kind of perspective would be to really spend some time thinking about what type of hobby you're looking for. The second part, after having kind of picked the type of hobby you would like to do, you don't have yet to think of which hobby it has to be. The next part is you have to define how often and when does it fit in your calendar. Because it's going to be very different if your activity is that you say, I have 15 minutes per day, or if you can put an hour and a half during the week at a certain point. Is it something that you can do more than once a week, that you only want to do once a week, every day, and how long? Really think about, from a timeline perspective, within your week, when does that hobby needs to fit? And that will already give you some basis. So again, consider, if I have time 15 minutes per day for a hobby, then maybe an activity that is at home or near your work, that maybe is, going for a walk or reading a book or joining a book club. So reading is your main activity, like on 15 minutes per day, for example. And then you have every month, 1 hour or like an evening with some other people to go through the books, just to give an example. Or maybe it's drawing or painting or running, and 15 minutes per day is maybe the time you pick to do that. So there is no one way, but you have to define. You really have to dig into your calendar to understand what makes sense for me and what is going to make me feel like, make me make sure I do it actually. Because if it becomes a hustle, if it becomes something very complex to go to, it's not going to feel right. And when you start something new, you're going to be excited at the beginning, basically. But after a couple of weeks, maybe months, you might end up being a bit more tired about it, and therefore having an activity that fits into your calendar is going to make it easier. Also, to start, to be honest, if you have a topic, sorry, my dog is licking my hand, so I hope it doesn't make too much noise. As I was saying, if a topic becomes too heavy or too complex in your calendar, you're not going to continue, because it's going to be a hassle for you to organize yourself around it. So really think first about this. It has to align your schedule. It has to feel easy for you to do this activity within your schedule. So really spend some time on it and make sure that it feels right. After you've kind of blocked your calendar for your time, you have to look at where you're going to do that hobby. And I say where because I'm fully aware that some of my friends who are parents, for example, the time they have to do for hobbies is literally while waiting for their kids to do their hobby. So maybe that has also an impact in terms of what you're looking at. If it's your free time, then you don't automatically have to take the same hobby as your kid. And because you're there, I don't know, I talk like sports center or art center, that you have to do an activity at the same time in the same context. But there are ways for you to do other activities at the same time during that same period. So if you don't have time to go into another location or something, maybe there is a different way, something else you can find in order to make that flexible. So again, think about that. If you have the opportunity to make that activity flexible to your location, or if you need to do your activity in the same location, what is available out there during that same time. Really spend some time to make sure it's fitting you and the time frame, so that it, again, as I said earlier, avoids making you struggle to continuing it. And also, if you pick a hobby that is more often, so as I said at the beginning, if you pick a hobby that is daily, I would really take the opportunity also to challenge yourself in terms of, okay, is this the right amount of time? Is this the right timing for me to do that? Not that a hobby 15 minutes per day is not a correct hobby, but your hobby should be also something that is really a time for you, where you have time to get out of your day-to-day. And 15 minutes, some people are very capable of doing it, but for some people it takes more time to really get out of your daily routine or thinking of your life, of what's next to do. So also challenge yourself in that context. Is the location and is the time you dedicate the right moment and the right place? But again, it has to feel right for you. So really have those 3 elements. As I said, first, what type of hobby you're looking at, where does it need to fit in your schedule, and which location you're supposed to do this hobby are the main 3 points for you to define that hobby before you go any further. So based on that, you should be able to get a good idea, a good base of what you want. And I give you the idea, the situation I had as an example, now that I've given you the first 3 parts. For me, as I said, I needed to replace tennis. Not because I didn't love it. It was more I couldn't find tennis club. I literally went through 6 tennis clubs and couldn't find a single one that had the right fit for me. I could play in any, but I was looking for teammates to be around my age. I was looking to play at a certain level, and I could either find girls that were much younger and somewhat my level, but where I just felt like, I mean, if I'm over 30. If I'm playing with a 16-year-old, I have nothing to talk to her about outside of the court. And my goal was, when I was looking for a tennis club, was always to have a team and to have a group. And so it didn't feel right. And on the other side, I also tried out with some clubs where I found some ladies who were 30 plus, so my age. But on a tennis level, I was really wasting my time. Sorry to say, it's not against them. It's just like, it didn't feel like I was learning anything. I didn't have the passion or the patience even to go back to basic level. And also because of that, then they had no clue of all the tennis world as much as I did. So we couldn't connect. So basically, this is why I decided, okay, I need to find a new hobby. I need to find a new sport. So this is how I defined, for me, it was sports. And then I realized that as my life is evolving, there are some pieces in there that makes it difficult for me to fit in. And my dog is one of them. You know, I come home from work, I pick him up. It's difficult to tell him, hey, you know what, stay home. I go to practice. The little buddy has been waiting for me all day. And so he just want to play with me when I get home. So it needed to be flexible for me to do it either early in the morning, after work, to do it next to my work, or to do it next to my home, to be able to do it on the weekend, during the week. So that's how I picked running, because then I can basically get out of the door and start running right away. So I also don't have the drive and don't lose too much time. The activity is really that from beginning to end, it can be quick. There is no driving to the tennis club or things like this involved. So it felt more flexible for me. And as I said, those are points. So the second point was how often. And for me, I knew I had a lot more time than a regular person, like a person around my age, a woman around my age who would have a family, because I don't have that. So I have I don't want to say that I have a lot of free time, but I have more flexibility in my calendar, and I wanted to dedicate also the time. So I really put out there, okay, I need about 5 hours of sports per week. It doesn't have to be on a specific day. I can put 1 to 1.5 hours into some sessions if I need to. It's just a matter of plugging it in. And so that's how I decided, okay, running was the right sport, but I'll come back a little bit on how I picked that sport, because of course there was more than one option. After I've put the frame in terms of when, how, where, what type would I do, it was easy for me to then look at the type of sports or the type of activities out there that I could do with this type of schedule. And with that, the next point was for me to define which of that activity was going to be recharging me. And I talk about this because from an energy level, you have a lot to handle. And there are many tasks that are going to be draining, and some tasks are going to be recharging. And a hobby should be a recharging task. Of course, it's not the same as sleeping or meditating. I mean, meditating could be a hobby in a way. But what I mean is that it needs to mentally recharge you. You need to feel better afterward it should be a moment of joy and positivity for you. So again, depending if you are an introvert, an extrovert, you might want to pick different type of hobby, or you could do the hobby in a very different way. Again, running as an example, you could be either. You can be an introvert and run by yourself. You can be an extrovert and do running clubs. These days, there are so many all over the place. But it's critical that activity, that time for yourself is recharging, because if not, it's going to become an extra weight on your shoulder, an extra to do. And the goal of a hobby is not to make it physically, it shouldn't feel like too much. It shouldn't feel like an extra task, really. So again, you have to pick that way. So those are the premises. But now we need to talk about how to get to your hobby and to finding it. After that, what I like to do and what I would really take from growing up, I had the opportunity in my life, and I don't know if I talked about it too much in the prior episodes, but growing up, I was always doing two sports. Or two activities actually, because some years, or three. Yeah, I kind of did a year I did two activities plus, two sports plus an extra activity. So I had some years music. I did painting as well. So I had different opportunity or art class. So overall, I had the opportunity growing up to test out multiple activities. And I think this is the best as well to consider. You need to pick a certain time frame that feel right for you to try it out, but it doesn't mean that activity is going to be the one forever for you. So you should consider and, of course, look at what is possible when it comes to schedule, what is possible when it comes to flexibility, to find an activity and to define, okay, for a certain time frame, I'm going to do it. So, for example, I wanted to start learning piano, and I told myself I will get 12 lessons of 30 minutes each, I think. And with those 12 lessons of 30 minutes each, I had a time frame. So my goal was, I think I started in September and I had to finish then in February. So during that time, I did those 12 sessions with a teacher. And that was a good way for me to make it a base to see, okay, actually it's working or not. So it's not too often, it's not too much. And it's not like I have to commit for a full year or I have to commit for even more than a year for some cases. With those 12 sessions, I was able to see a pattern, how I was managing. And I saw that what was working for me with piano was the fact that I had a teacher, I had a certain session set. So it was easy for me to go there and to, based on my schedule, meet the sessions as expected. However, I struggled already then to spend some time at home to prepare for the next session and to practice by myself. And here I had to put some blockers, but it felt good. And I was still spending, I think at the beginning, it took me a certain routine to get to the point of like putting 2 extra blockers in my calendar in order to train on the piano at home. And so after that period, September to February, and those 12 sessions, I decided, okay, let's do another round. And that second round went completely different. It really I had the same thing. I had 12 sessions in the course of roughly, I think, six months. It did not fit at all my calendar anymore. And I could not figure out, the first few months, I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized that my personal calendar in the summer is a lot more busy and therefore I had less time to practice. And it's not like I can bring the piano everywhere. It's staying at home. So I could not practice in between sessions. And then with the school holiday, then my teacher was not available, and I was not going on holiday during the school holiday. I was going on holiday usually before or after, and then we would ending up with a month with no sessions. So we finished all the 12 sessions, but it took us a lot of rearranging, a lot of organization, and sometime I would show up at the next session not having practice, and between those 2 sessions, a month had passed. So I felt like the progress was a lot less, and I don't think it's that I was not in it. I really appreciated the activity. I really appreciated the hobby, but I realized this is more a hobby for winter for me because I'm more home in the winter. Not that I don't love to travel, I love to travel, but it's like I have more time to cozy up at home, I guess. And this is why it felt right in the winter and not in the summer. So with that, I decided to take a bit of time because to get to that result and that reflection, it took me a bit of time. And actually, this happened in 2024. So now we are already in 2025, and I've been thinking about it. Do I want to take all the sessions in September or not? Maybe not at the moment. I think I will do stuff by myself because, to be honest, I have a lot. I've added the podcast, I've added other things, but I still love piano and I still want to practice, but more for fun, more maybe by myself, find a way to make it a routine, but not to make it heavy or to make it too difficult to tackle. As I said, based on that experience, really what I would tell you is make sure you do an activity that you do often enough for a certain period of time. So you have the opportunity to reflect and to feel, is it the right activity for me or not? And if it's not, it's okay. It's okay if it's not the right one. You're allowed to switch, and you're allowed to spend the next 5 years switching every few months until you find the right activity for you, because there's so many hobbies out there. So it's difficult to pick. It's difficult to know. You see a lot of people enjoying all sorts of things. My mom plays the guitar. My older brother does skiing and many other things out there. And you think and you see the fun they're having. And so it's natural also to be like, okay, I would like to try. So don't beat yourself up if after that period of time that you've given for yourself, this has not become the hobby you were hoping for. You're always allowed to switch and allowed to find another one. However, it's important that you commit during the certain period of time. When you've put in and that you've defined your goal, your objective, how long are you going to do this, for what, then that becomes kind of like really your focus, and that you don't start looking at already other hobbies. Of course, if after the 3rd or the 4th session you're like, it's really like not for me at all, you can always stop. But give the opportunity to try to learn, to try to feel comfortable with it before you make a clear cut. But also give yourself really the opportunity to try. Meaning, if you don't commit and don't go and end up not taking the time for it, it's never going to feel right, because you're not going to be really in it when you're supposed to be in it. And that's the objective of a hobby, is that you really spend the time on it. So, as I said, I gave you the example of piano. I could give you on the other side the example of running that I started, and I started by myself. And then I was going like twice a week. I was doing a few races. It was fun, but I felt something was missing and I was not committing really during the week. And I realized for me, for that case scenario, in order to commit more, I needed a coach that creates for me a schedule that I follow. So it's helped me build a base. But I also still wanted to run by myself. I didn't want to run with group. So all those things, because I took the time to go through the phases and to realize what I like, what I don't like, without stopping to try that hobby, helped me sort it and help me structure it in order to make sure that then I create something that is actually feels very good today. I really love it. I just went for running this morning, even in the heat wave, 6 a.m. I was out there. But it's like it took some time. And if I had stopped after saying, after 2 months of running by myself, after doing once a week on the weekend or like twice, like each day on the weekend, and that's it, like I don't feel any improvement, I don't see anything, then I could have got bored and say it's not the sport for me. And I'm not saying that every sport is the case, but in that one, I was like, okay, is it that the sport is not for me, or is it that I don't have the right environment for it? And by changing some pieces in the environment, things got a lot better. So also think about it when doing that framing and that objective, to make sure that during that period, you give it all the chance that you can. For that, potentially, you need to change the frame or adapt along the way. I know I talked a little bit already in the prior piece about the fact that, make sure during the frame that you have an objective, etc. But I think it's also important that it's very funny, actually, because I keep on hearing create goals, start small, and make it achievable. And for sure, I'm someone that is always about growth, always about development. But I'm like, don't make your goal like you have to achieve a certain... your hobby should be fun to start with. And look, I have a goal with this podcast. I have a goal with piano. I have a goal with running. But they are not heavy. And that's what I want to avoid. And let's say if tomorrow I was decided to paint, which I am not good at all. I would not say to myself, I need to be able to paint like whatever or do whatever painting by in 3 months, in 6 months. I would be more like, okay, you have to enjoy the process and you have to enjoy the class, or at least half of the class by a certain time. I would not put a goal on you have to achieve this automatically. And it's the same thing, to be honest, with running. I realized at the beginning that my objective was really to run a certain speed and to run a certain mileage per week. That created frustration because, first of all, you see on social media, you're always going to have people that do more. But for me, the biggest frustration was like, I didn't run enough this week. But my coach had put that planning on purpose because potentially I had a race the next few days. So, of course, you're supposed to run less after or before. But also for other reasons. Maybe you are training for a certain specific type of races. At some point, I was running uphill. So, of course, less kilometers, but I had to go uphill to train for a trail running race. And that is, in that week, for sure, I did not attain whatever amount I was expected to do that week based on my thought and my objective. So I changed a bit that process. I'm still looking at the number. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect. But instead, I'm more looking at, okay, was it hard for me to do the session this week? Did I have fun doing the session? And would I want to do it again? And with that, really focus during the training, it helped me really take the process more at ease. So let's say, for example, if I look at this week, I had training on Monday. It was what I would call for me an easy run. And I was so happy to get out there. So easy peasy, really. And then I had another session, which I did on Wednesday. And I was supposed to do it on Wednesday morning because it was super hot on Wednesday. And I couldn't get out of bed. And I think it's more due to the heat than me not wanting to go running. And then I finished early my day because I was having a big day at a big few weeks. So I finished early and I decided to go after work. And I put a completely different focus because, of course, it was like 30 plus degrees outside. So I was looking for the shade. I went slower than usual. So for sure, if my coach tell me run 45 minutes, if I run slower, less kilometers. But that was not the goal. For me, was to see, can I still run 45 minutes? How many times do I stop with this heat to like take a breather? And am I able to feel okay after that run? So again, I was like, yeah, I made it that run. I was happy to be on the run. It was hard, but I was happy to be on it and I was proud of myself. And I would do it again, maybe not in that heat, maybe not in that context all the time, but I could redo it again once or twice. So that gave me the good base. And then same thing, now I have 2 more sessions to do on the weekend. So I was supposed to do a session yesterday and it was too hot and I really didn't feel it. So I moved it to tomorrow because tomorrow morning is going to be much colder. And today I did my regular run, so an hour, 15 minutes. And again, it felt good. And those are my bases. If all of a sudden I'm not feeling good for a few runs, then I would look at it in terms of like, why am I not feeling good? If I'm not feeling good when I start, or if I'm not feeling good when I finish, that I don't feel like I achieved something and that I'm not proud of myself, or that I'm like not happy that I did it, that I made it through, then what am I doing it for? So really, you can put some goals. Like I have some goals. I want to achieve a certain amount. Like, I'm right above the 1 hour on the 10K. I'm literally 1 hour, 1 minute. So I'm hopeful for sure to go under an hour. I have some objective with half marathons, with other races that I wish to do. So there are some bigger objectives for what I'm training for, and I'm training my speed based on that. But my day-to-day going out to run for all my sessions is not for that. It's not, I'm not looking at to achieve that goal that day. I'm training for me to feel good. And then with the training that I do, I know this is a training toward me being able to achieve that goal. But if I don't feel good, no matter what, let's say I achieve it, but I've been feeling horrible about running for the last 3 months, what's the point? Okay, great, I achieved it, but I was not having fun for 3 months. So a hobby needs to be fun. So when you put your goals, you can put some goals in terms of I want to achieve a certain result at a race, so I want to achieve this in 6 months' time. But you should not look at every single session in terms of like, can I do this today? Can I just look at like, how was it? Did I enjoy it? Did I have fun? Do I want to do it again? Really more from that context. And for someone, this is all about the goals, growth, task. It took me some time to get there, but this would really be my number one advice for you. Because if not, this is not, you're always going to feel, either you're going to judge yourself for not going fast enough in terms of development toward that goal, or you're going to feel like you're an underachiever, or that you're not going to feel like it's, how to say it? I don't know. You're going to feel like you're not speedy enough in your improvements. And anything that is new, yes, your learning curve can be quite fast, but it's also depending on you, who you are as a person. So take the time, learn, and enjoy the process. Really enjoy the process. On the same topic of enjoying the process, one more thing I want to mention, and you should let go of being a perfectionist. This is not the time to try to be perfect. This is not the time to show, you're not showing off, or you're not like you're at work. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to do anything for anyone. This is your time for you. And there should not be any other people than you to look at it, but don't be a perfectionist at all. Enjoy the process, enjoy making mistakes, and really have fun. Embrace the learning process. Really, that should be the number one piece in there for you to do during that hobby. If you struggle with finding the right time for the hobby, or making it on time or making the time for the hobby, one thing I would do is to kind of find your person that you're accountable for. And this can be a friend with whom you decide to go. I don't know, you take Pilates, you decide to go with a friend once a week. Then you're going to feel accountable, because if you miss 2 classes in a row, your friend's going to be like, hey, what the hell? Hey, where are you? I was there at the class and you were not. So this might be a way for them, or for you to feel accountable to someone. It could also be that this is something you discuss with your partner, where you say, like, please keep me accountable that I don't take the time to do something else. I think it's easy to say, oh, no, I don't have time now. I'll do this later for a hobby. And having a partner that can tell you, no. You said you were going to go now, so you're going to go because it's your time now, can also help you make sure that you spend the time for it. Or you can do like I did for me. I have a coach. And the reason why I picked a coach was on purpose, because I grew up with sports where I always had a coach and I had to be at practice on a certain day. And of course, it's still my personal will to do this sport, to do this activity, to do what I do. But having someone that take the extra weight off of my brain to think, what do I do today? How do I set it up, etc. Like, he's the one who has built my schedule. So I just have to follow in a way. And having such a busy job, such a life where I have to take care of everything and control a lot, for me it was nice to have for once someone that could do things for me, and I would just like achieve what he expected of me. Of course, I'm still critical, and sometimes we discuss the session, or we review, or I ask him why this type of sessions are happening, but I don't have to overthink it. I can just go. So that was one reason why I picked to have a coach. And then the other side is that I always felt accountable toward my coaches. I always felt accountable. If you ask me to do a program, even with a running app, there is no human behind. So there is no one that to tell me, hey, you didn't do it. Because even if an app tell me, hey, you didn't do your session, it's an app. It's not a person. When a person comes to me and say, hey, you didn't do the session, or hey, you finished early, what happened? That's personal connection makes me feel like, okay, I have to give an answer. I have to respond. This is why also, like, even now today, whenever I switch some sessions around, for example, this week I was supposed to run Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And as I said, it's super hot. I need to reopen the windows as soon as this episode is finished, by the way. But I decided to switch to do, I did Monday, I did Wednesday, but as I said, Friday was so hot and my day had been so busy and I couldn't wake up in the morning. So I said, okay, no, I'm going to do, I went actually even 10 minutes on Friday morning. And then I went home and I wrote to my coach a text and I said, no go, today is not the day I'm going to run. My calendar, the way it works, I can move my sessions. So I just moved around my session to Saturday, Sunday. And I went swimming in the evening. It felt good for me. I told my coach, of course, he's okay. If I not tell him that I've missed 3 sessions, he's going to be like, why did you miss 3 sessions? But in that case, that was not it. So we talked about it. Hey, the heat, everything. So what should I do? Having this opportunity to exchange, the opportunity to talk about, my switch in the calendar, but I'm still accountable to do the sessions. And when you put something in my calendar, I feel accountable to do the session. And I think that has been very helpful for me. And as I said, you have to find what feels right for you. But I would highly, highly advise to have an accountability towards someone. And I gave those 3 examples, a partner, a friend, a coach. There's many, many other ways. You could also say, hey, by Christmas time, I want to play that song on the piano. And therefore, your family is going to be waiting on Christmas Day. Hey, can you play that song? I think I said that to my parents, so maybe I need to start piano again before the end of the year so I can play a certain song for them. No, but joking aside, it's really important that you have this accountability to make sure that you do it. But again, it should not be heavy. It should be fun. And if you tell a person, like after a few months, hey, you know what, this is, forget what I said, I just can't make it, or it doesn't feel right for me, it's okay as well. But the more you're going to make an accountability partner, having an accountability buddy, the more it's going to be easier for you to continue for a certain time and feel comfortable with the hobby as soon as possible. Of course, like any activities, like any goals, any objective, you should reflect and adjust. And this is what I've been saying, all episode long, right? It's you do this for a certain period of time and then you reflect and adjust, either adjust your schedule or adjust the activity or adjust the environment. But you have to find what's right for you. And it's not easy in time of having a full-time job. It's really a portion that maybe I've not talked enough about. So I would really like to make the connection now with work. You have a long day in the office. You're going to be tired no matter what. Or you have a long day taking care of your toddler. You're going to be tired. So I would also highly advise to make sure you prioritize your hobby within the day. Whenever you can, and this I'm not a good example of, because I don't always do it. Sometimes I do sessions in the morning before work. Sometimes I do session after work. Sometimes I do over lunch. But a colleague of mine, she said to me, well, I'm not coming into the office before 9 because I do my hobby before I go. Because my time before I go to the office is critical. I have a lot of energy and I want to spend it on myself. That doesn't mean that she's not performing at work, but it means that her peak of energy, she wants to spend it on herself and on her hobby. And I think it's quite valid. So for me, my peak of form is really a different time of the day. I'll make an episode about this. Some sessions I do at 5 a.m. Some sessions I do it at 8 p.m. I really have a very unbalanced perspective. But also, I know that I have the pressure that I have to be in the office at 8 a.m. every morning. Don't ask me why. I think it's because most of my colleagues in my project are also here at 8. Which makes me feel like if I arrive at 9 or 10, first of all, I wouldn't arrive at 10 to be honest, but at 9, if I were to arrive around that time, it feels like I'm late compared to my colleagues. And the second piece is usually that I will also finish later and therefore have less time for myself, which is not true because potentially I would have used it in the morning. And as I was telling you, my colleague is using it in the morning for herself. And I would really highly also consider that for you. If you have the opportunity to have a flexible schedule or to play around with your sleeping schedule, if you have to, consider when is it the right time to do the activity. So I know running before bed, horrible. So why would I go run from 9 to 10 p.m. or 8 to 9 p.m. if I could instead go to bed at 9 p.m. and run at 5 a.m. the next morning? And maybe that's difficult to be like, hey, waking up at 5 is hard. But if you go to bed at 9, it's not that hard. You still get your hours of sleep and you're still fine. I'm not saying this is the way to do. I'm saying this is one idea that you may want to have. Think about when is your peak of form and also consider that within your perspective. Because your job is always going to be heavy. Your work will always take a lot of your time and a lot of your mind. So it's always going to be hard after work to go into another activity, even more when it's new. Afterwards, when your hobby has become a routine, or I don't like to use the word routine, but when your hobby has become something important for you that is really feel good moment, then you most likely are going to be able to do it also in the evening, come back from work, and this is going to give you a new energy. So this could potentially be the opportunity, but at the very beginning, think about when is the moment that you have the most energy for yourself, because as I said, if it's heavy, it's going to be very difficult for you to follow up on after work, after a busy day. I hope you liked today's episode. I will put in the notes a few of the key bullet points, the key messages that I've mentioned in the episodes, but I really hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that helped you figure out potentially a new hobby or new time for yourself within your very busy calendar. I really had fun making it. I hope you liked it as well. I do feel like I'm this day running without a script, so I have some notes on the side. So maybe sometime you saw me look at my computer that is on the left side over there. I hope it was okay. I hope you find the right hobby for you, and I would love to hear what hobby you're currently tackling or you're currently doing, or if you have a new hobby, how is it going? Please let me know in the comments or on social media. I wish you all a very nice day. Please comment, support, share the podcast, and comment, subscribe, like the episodes on your podcast platform. And also you can find some snippets, video snippets on social media. I wish you all a very nice day. I had a lot of fun recording that episode, and we talk soon. Bye.